Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Make It a Great Week, where we start off each Monday morning with a strong cup of coffee and a positive conversation. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Opa. Let's make it a great week. Picked up this guy, and Philip says, in the notes, he said, I have a wheelchair and a chihuahua.
Interesting combo.
And I pull up, and there's somebody in the wheelchair, and Philip was the helper, and ended up, I guess they've been married or been together 28 years. And the person is in a wheelchair, blankets all over them. They're sitting outside, and this little chihuahua was looking around with his beady little eyes. And they held the chihuahua, or she held the chihuahua for the trip. They were going to go to Spinks first, and then on to Labor Finders. He was a flagger. You know what a flagger is?
No.
One of those guys that stand in the road and hold the stop sign.
Oh, okay.
Stop, go, slow. And he went to Spinks for he got her in the car and put the wheelchair in the back. Okay, good. Anyway, so he gets in the car, he's going to work, and she tells me that they've been together 28 years, and
wow.
He's going to Labor Finders. He can make up to $15 an hour if it's a good day. Sometimes he'll make $17 an hour, and he'll be that flagger, and he likes working during the days. But they both get out at Labor Finders, and I don't know if she's going to. She says, yeah. I said, no, are you going to get out here? Because that was the Uber trip was complete Uber trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, are you getting out here? Yeah, I'm getting out here. I can't be by myself because I'm on dialysis, and she had a oxygen. You could hear an oxygen tank hissing. Unbelievable. Some people have to deal with it. He's just a wonderful attitude, putting her in the car, her wheelchair. And how often does he do this? It's beyond me. Making $17 an hour.
Yeah.
I say, wow. And then he dropped them off at the Spinks, go 3 miles down the road and pick up some other guy. I can't remember his name. He was going to the airport, and he's just, I'm so sick of this. Every week I'm flying away. I'm got to fly, and he's 52. He says I'm getting close to just saying I'm done with it all because I'm working too hard. I've traveled everywhere. I said, well, what do you do that you have to travel so often? I'm with this global something such company, and we have offices all over the world. So he says, I'm constantly flying to these different offices. And he says, it's getting old. I'm 52. I'm ready to get out of this. Yeah. He says, my house in Lake Greenwood, I got his friend that developed cancer. And I told him shortly about my cancer story, and all this. Yeah. And he says, yeah, you never know. I said, boy, that's right. But he says, I'm about done. I said, well, have you ever tried, you ever looked into trading, because he wants to do something else. And he says, yeah, I just do nothing but real estate. He said, I bought my kids a couple houses. So here's a guy at way a different level than the previous people that I just had here that are probably on Medicaid, and you're doing Labor Finders, just to make some extra cash. And here's this guy that, does all this. And I said, wow. And same seat. Yeah. Not 5 minutes later,
And who seemed happier?
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably the guy at Labor Finders, seeming a little bit more, happy because he's got his routine and he knows what he can do. But man, talk about a lot going on.
Yeah.
Wife in a wheelchair on dialysis with oxygen. And then a chihuahua to boot.
The chihuahua sounds like the worst part, but
yeah. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's just interesting contrast there.
Yeah, and husband. I'm sure that part of the reason he seemed happier is because he's taking care of somebody, and that's very,
That
very
could be.
rewarding
Yeah.
to help somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a much better feeling than traveling for some corporation to people that, probably don't care that much,
Yeah.
whether you're there or not. You're just another person who shows up. But some people like to travel. There's a
Yeah.
director at my work who he signs the checks, and every time I talk to him, he has either just gotten back from international travels. It's almost never domestic. It's always international. Or he's about to go. Be like, yes, next week I'm going to be flying out to France, and then the week after that I'll be in, Germany or China or Mexico. And I don't know. He doesn't ever complain about the travel.
How old is he?
Probably in his 50s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And he's been doing it a long time.
He might like it.
Yeah.
Some people love it. This guy was tired of it.
Yeah.
He just didn't want any more of it. So he was thinking about how to get out. And I said, well, I started taking my retirement at age 62. And he said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, but it's 10 years away.
Well, last week you mentioned that you were a milkman, and I just breezed right over it. And I cannot remember you ever mentioning that before. I'm sure you probably have, but how did you become a milkman? And when did you become a milkman?
I got fired from Coca-Cola.
Okay. That's a strong opening.
Yeah.
Were you stealing the Coke?
No. If you want that story, the Richards, the Richards, I was in their wedding. And we had a big promotion the weekend of their wedding. And I'm out there slaving for Coca-Cola. Those guys work hard.
Yeah.
Slinging Coke. And so I was out there, and this was when there were Eckards. Do you know what an Eckards is?
Is that what used to be CVS?
It used to be a
type of thing.
A type of pharmacy type thing, Eckards, and they had plenty of them all over. And ended up that the boss man comes out, and when I was on the route, he says, "Hey, we need these displays put up on Saturday, at these Eckards." And I says, "Well, we got a problem because I'm in a wedding on Saturday." He says, "Well, you're just going to have to do it anyway. You have to not go to the wedding or something." No, I am in the wedding. It's not that I am, attending the wedding. I am in the wedding. I got to be there. Well, no, you better. We want you here. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will come after the wedding to put up these displays. And just a little Coca-Cola at the time never had a small display. I mean, it was big, bodacious, and in your face.
Yeah.
When you come through the store. And so there were cases upon cases upon cases of Cokes that you had to put in there and merchandise correctly so that every little Coke can was facing out. It was amazing. Learned a lot about merchandising from Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Before they fired you.
Yeah. And so I said, I can't. I'm not going to come, okay, because I'm in this wedding. But I will come after the wedding in the afternoon and put these up. He says, "Well, don't bother then." I said, "Okay." So Monday morning, he pulled me in his office and said, "Yeah, we're going to fire you for insubordination." I said, "See you later." I said, "I don't want to work for a stinking company that's going to treat me like that. I mean, I'm willing to come out and do the work afterwards."
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'm not trying to shirk my responsibility. I will do it.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable to say, "I'll just come do it later."
Yeah, and that's what I thought. But he, I don't know if he thought I was getting a little too close, because he ended up getting fired a little bit later on for stealing company property, merchandise, hand trucks, things like this. And I don't know if I never thought I was witnessing anything like that, but maybe he thought I did or something. But anyway, so then I went to look for another route job, and that route job was milk.
So what year was that? Do you remember?
87, maybe, probably.
Do they even have milk trucks anymore? The kind that you
most of our business, all of our business, I guess. Well, not all of it was restaurants.
Oh, okay.
And grocery stores, convenience stores. Somebody's got to put the milk in there, and that's where we come up with the idea that, listen, You can run it or it can run you. It can be a hassle if you don't know what you're doing on your milk route because you got stales, you got milk that's going out of date, and you're picking this stuff up. And I had became a supervisor with him, and one of the route guys just could not do it together. He could not get it, and he would bring in the old milk, put it on his truck, swap it out, and then forget where he put it on the truck, and it would slide around because it
Oh,
just could slide around. And he would then take that old milk sometimes and put it in a new location. I said, it's out of date. Put your out of date milk over here, you know, segregate that. But I said, Larry was his name. Larry, you can run it or it can run you.
yeah.
And it was running Larry. And he was running ragged, and every day he'd come in after 10, 12 hours. Oh, this job is just so hard. It's just can't believe. And I'd be in by 3 or 4 hours already. And I said, Larry, you can run
Were you
it.
really?
I
He would
mean,
be out there 8 hours longer than you?
yes. I mean, well, he'd be out several hours longer than
Yeah.
me, and just because he didn't know how to run his route, and I tried to tried to help him, but he just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Just and I don't know if he was playing dumb or he was actually that.
Well, I feel like sometimes stuff just doesn't make sense in people's heads. Like
Could be.
their brains process it differently.
That may be my trouble.
Some people can just, and they're like, I'm sure you in your head could just see, oh, this is what I need to do in order to keep it organized
Yeah,
and move it and all that stuff.
yeah,
And it
and
sounds like you'd be good at an inventory count,
uh,
good at the milk
it was very
management.
interesting. I mean, and after a while, you know where to park in a parking lot. You know when to go there. You know how to open the door with your hand truck full of milk. You find these little keys, and all these little things add into making your route go smoothly.
Yeah.
But if you don't keep track of those, or that's not something that's a priority of trying to, hey, how can I hone this route down? Because once route work is great work if you know what you're doing, because you can get where you can cut corners that you if need be, and you know when not to do that,
Yeah.
which um, they were the people in the back of Bilo's was used to be a grocery store. But there was the person that accepted you into Bilo. I can't remember what their exact title was, but they accepted all the vendors.
Hmm.
If you can imagine having to accept every type of vendor out there, chips, dry product, I mean, beverages,
Yeah.
all this, and constantly every day, and these guys trying to, get something over on you,
Yeah.
or trying to pull out stuff that it doesn't need to be pulled out, or put stuff in that's, and these people have these back of the Bilo, they were just fed up with all but you knew which ones you could smooth, and the ones that were good, and the ones that were just, and you had to do everything by the book, and if you didn't do everything just extremely by the book, then they wouldn't help you at all.
Hmm.
But some places, hey, can you allow me to put a couple stacks more of 2 liters in here? When I used to, then with Coca-Cola, can I put a couple more stacks of 2 liters in here? Because it'll boost the sales, and just feed off of that for the rest of the week. Won't have
Yeah.
to. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just put them right here. Yeah, that's good. But you found ways that you could do that for people, and
Yeah.
it was. But you had to be a craft. You had to be a student of your craft,
Hmm.
and one of those things was things like that. Who can I talk to? Who can I smooth? Who's going to work with me? And then who's those people who aren't going to, they're going to go by the book and say,
Yeah.
no, don't you put one drink more in here than you need. That's on display. Um, so it was kind of fun, but that was how long it lasted there. It was through Hurricane Hugo. I know that because I was up when Hurricane Hugo hit.
Okay.
Yeah, that was back. That would have been back in 1989, I think. Hurricane Hugo hit Charleston,
Okay.
and it came up. So it was a couple hours after that. It was like we had to get up, and we had at the time the our milk was coming out of High Point, North Carolina. If my memory serves me correctly, we are owned by Harris Teeter. It used to be Borden, the Borden plant down. You know where the Borden plant is?
No.
Downtown. You know where the post office is downtown?
Yes.
Downtown Greenville?
Hmm.
Right across the street was the Borden plant.
Okay.
Borden, that plant was an ice cream plant. They made ice cream for, you ever heard of Winn-Dixie?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Winn-Dixie, the grocery store.
Yeah.
They made all the super brand ice cream for Winn-Dixie.
What happened to all these stores?
I know. That's just the way it goes. You know, they come and go.
Isn't it crazy to think how many people poured into those businesses?
Yeah.
And the end result is
Nothing.
dissolution.
Gone, right. And but anyway, that they made ice cream there. They had 4 or 5. They had some milk routes, and I was one of the milk guys there. And but then Borden sold their milk routes. I think when Super Brand Winn-Dixie went belly up, then they wanted to keep their milk routes, but they sold them to, I thought it was Harris Teeter, High Point, North Carolina. Harris Teeter then was trying to build a presence down here. Their first time they tried to build a presence in Greenville, and we had all the milk routes, all the schools in Greenwood County, one of the districts in Greenwood County. So he had to come from High Point to us to Greenwood, had to be in Greenwood unloading by 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So he had we couldn't, it would have been too late for him to unload down there and then come all the way back here to service us. So it would have been like 8 o'clock in the morning, and that was just too late. So he had to come to us first. So we were the first ones on for his first stop. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning when we had to come unload our milk, send him down to Greenwood, and then that's when we started our routes.
2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, after unloading the truck and everything, then our 4 o'clock in the morning was our first stop was like a Hardee's when they were out making biscuits, and we had all the buttermilk for the Hardee's biscuits. The old Hardee's biscuits was so good because we had real buttermilk, not this non-fat garbage.
Yeah.
It was really fatty buttermilk, and they made it with lard. They made their biscuits with, literal. The package said 1 pound of lard, and they mixed it up with the buttermilk. It was a good biscuit back then. Now they don't do that. But anyway, yeah. So we had to get started really early. And
so what would you finish if you started around 4 in the morning?
4 in the afternoon or so. By the time you got all your paperwork done and your truck unloaded, reloaded, and sorted everything out, 4 in the afternoon was not an uncommon time.
So 12-hour days every day?
Yeah. It was just, but the thing about route work, those guys that route work, it's not, you don't just say, 8 hours, I'm done for the day. You got 5 more stops. These people need their milk.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get them. You better, you don't stop until the route is over. I had a flat tire. Okay, sorry. We're going to get the flat tire. You're going to be behind like 3 hours now. What? Yeah, you just got to get it done. And it's just, all route work is that way where you just got to get, I remember when I worked for Frito-Lay. I worked for Frito-Lay one time and I said, I'm going to take off Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, because it's a good day to take off, right?
Yeah,
Thanksgiving, it's a holiday, right? Thursday. All the convenience stores that I had, all of them were open. Very busy day for them. And it took me like 2 weeks after taking off Thanksgiving to be able to catch up with all the stuff that, I missed because I took off, for Thanksgiving. I said, I can't believe this. I said, I'm going to do that again. Because all these convenience stores stayed open, all the time.
Yeah.
And they constantly needed servicing. You had to do it, or they'd call up, hey, my guy I haven't seen him all week long. Where is he? And so then I'd have to reroute things and reschedule things. And oh my goodness, I said, this is ridiculous. Why did I even take off? It's not worth it. You know? And that was the days. That was back in the days when they had video poker. Video poker, video poker. These people would put in money and it would be like, I guess Texas Hold'em or something. And you could discard, maybe it was five, I don't know, 5 cards would come up and you could discard up to 3 of them. Boop, 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 boop.
Okay.
And they'd sit there and try to make a fortune on their, and they sit there smoking. This is when everybody smoked in their facilities. And I would be in a convenience store for, an hour trying to service the whole thing because Frito-Lay has a lot of products.
Yeah.
And nuts and cookies. And you got to go and make sure that none of those things are out of date and all this kind. Anyway, so I'm there and there are these 4 or 5 machines and all these guys are around these machines sucking on cigarettes. And I'm there having a secondhand smoke and I get headaches being there. They go from one to another. And video poker was a big deal back then. And they finally outlawed them. So praise the Lord for that because that was taking a lot of people's money.
Yeah.
Very, very highly addictive.
That was the thing.
Highly addictive. They just sit there on a stool for hours. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop.
And you can make real money off of it.
They would have payouts, but of course the whole thing was rigged for the arcade companies, pockets. But you could actually make some money. They'd give you a payout. Now, it may not come in the form of a payout. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did it.
Yeah. When I worked at Chick-fil-A, similar to what you're saying about you gotta run it or it will run you.
Yes.
I closed every night.
Oh yeah.
I worked in the back, and you could leave when your job was done. And so there'd be a new person who would start and the store would close at 10. And it was always the joke that like, yeah, they're going to be here till 11:30 because they're going to go slow. They're not going to know. And that was one of the funnest parts of the job to me was like you could clean certain stuff when the store was still open because you knew that thing wasn't going to get used.
Right.
And you were kind of betting, well, if someone orders, we're going to have to dirty it all again.
Yeah. But
I'm pretty sure someone isn't going to order this in the next 30 minutes. So, at 9:30, you'd start cleaning the grilled chicken because no one's going to order grilled chicken at 9:30 at night or, and so, my goal was always to see how fast after 10 we could be done. And, I got it down to where it was like 10 minutes after.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know that was where you were just cleaning furiously.
Yeah.
And probably a little bit too fast. But, they would come the next morning if there was anything wrong. They would tell you the next time they saw you.
They'd let you know, yeah.
Yeah, they'd say, that part, you didn't scrub that down enough.
Yeah.
But they cleaned very well at Chick-fil-A. I mean, you scrubbed everything. They took apart the grill every single night.
Wow.
The whole thing.
Wow.
Scrubbed the entire grill down that they were cooking on every day.
You could sponsor us, Chick-fil-A. You would love that. That's for some free advertising right there.
Exactly. But yeah, that was.
Oh, we had Chick-fil-A this morning.
Yeah, we did. We did some yummy food.
Yeah, thank you,
Justin.
Good. Yeah. Good.
So you said you were a supervisor at the milk delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So you were middle milk management.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, 3M.
Okay. I've been sitting on that one for 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
It's past now, but I still want to make it.
Yeah.
There was one thing I was thinking about that I thought would be kind of a good note to end on. But what is that quote you've talked about? Like someone who it was either building part of something or painting part of something. Do you remember where it was there? It was that story kind of showing the attitude they have.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the one about the bricklayers?
Yes.
I guess a reporter was asking these guys going to work one day, saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And it comes across this first guy who says, "Well, I'm laying brick." Oh, okay, great. This your job site? Yeah, I'm laying brick at this job site. Okay, good. Next guy behind him saying, "What do you do here?" All of them were bricklayers.
Yeah.
He says, "What do you do here?" He says, "I'm making." Back in the day, it was about $12.50 an hour. Okay, so here you got a guy laying brick, another guy making $12.50 an hour, and then the guy behind him say, "What are you doing here, sir?" He says, "I am helping construct the most magnificent cathedral human eyes have ever seen, so that people could come in here and worship the God of all creation." And wow, what a difference in attitude when you're going to work. I'm making $10.50 an hour. I'm just laying brick. versus somebody who's involved in something that's just magnificent.
Yeah.
And they have a purpose for their job that is more than just, making a paycheck.
Yeah.
It does, man, give me like 50 of those type of people on my work crew, and you're gonna have some wonderful attitudes and a wonderful creation, you make. So it's totally different.
Oh, and that's gonna affect your life so much. Like that, it's a kind of a silly story, but you come across those people who, whenever you talk to them, it rolls over not into just into their job, but in life in general.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just, oh, I'm doing what I have to do.
Yes.
I have to do this. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else who was saying how that's actually a really bad way of looking at things, like telling your kids we have to do this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
When in reality, what you should be saying is like, we get to do this.
Right.
Like, we're choosing to do this because this is the best thing for us right now. And even like with a job, everyone's not going to be building some beautiful cathedral. And maybe your job, you can't find meaning in it, but you can still find meaning in what that job allows you to do outside of work. Provide for your family, spend money on the things that you enjoy, and bring meaning to your life. But if you can't have that mentality, it just makes life so much harder, and also makes it way harder for you to do good at your job, which in turn is going to affect you negatively. But I just feel like you can instantly tell when someone cares like that about what they're doing.
Yeah.
It just shows.
It does show. What you're talking about is like, victim mentality. Yeah, I got to go to work today. I try to never say that. Like, I got to get up an Uber today at 3:00 in the morning. I mean, I'm choosing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to do that because I'm choosing to pay my bills.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'm choosing to stay at this address and to be able to. I'm choosing to have water.
Yeah.
And I look at some of the folks out there that choose otherwise, and you see them all the time. They're hey, can you give me a penny, or can you give me some money? I'd like a cup of coffee or whatever. Well, they're choosing not to have a power bill, water bill, insurance bill, mortgage payment. But so don't use those. And I find that it's very easy to, I got to do this, I got to do that. No, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to do this, and especially in your job, I think that if a person looks deep enough, they can find that they do have meaning in their job, because guess what? If there was no meaning for your job, you would not be employed here. They would not be paying you a paycheck for you to do nothing.
Yeah.
You're important in some sense to this company. That's why they hired you.
Yeah.
And I like picking up like servers. I'm a waitress or waiter or whatever. I said, man, what an opportunity there. I said, to make somebody's day, talking about making somebody's day.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know if that person's coming from I know this by experience, a diagnosis that, hey, listen, you got cancer.
Yeah.
Or they just had this great news that, hey, I just got a promotion. Or they got great news that, their child is pregnant with a grandchild. Oh, fantastic. So you don't know all these different people that you're coming across. What kind of days they're on, what kind of, they may just be on the verge of breaking up. Or they may be on the verge of starting a great, a love affair.
Yeah.
And you, as a waiter or waitress, a server, now that term is used now, server, you've got to be able to eyeball the situation and be able to read the room, so to speak. And you've got not just one table, you're probably in charge of several tables.
Yeah.
And this person over here may be coming from a funeral. This person over here may be coming from a wedding.
Yeah.
This person over here may be, and so you got to be able to understand those things, and you can either make their day, or you make it a very wonderful, pleasant experience, or you can really make it a horrible experience for them. And so these servers out there have a great opportunity, and I think it shows in their paycheck. It can show in their paycheck, because if they know what they're doing, and I tell them, there's the science of serving, which is, where do I put the fork and knife, and where do I put the cup? When I fill it up, how do I do that? Do I go around the left side or right side, or where? And then there's the art of serving. And
Yeah.
those people who make the really good money are the people that know the art of serving. So that is just, I think being a server would be a great job for everyone at least once in their life to do some sort of
or in
job
food
like
industry.
Yeah, in the food industry.
I'm pretty much going to make my kids work
Yes,
in some type of food industry when they're, I mean, like, just because you need that perspective if you're going to be buying food the rest of your life,
Right.
of appreciating how hard people have to work to
That's
do
true.
that.
Very true.
And also, I think everyone should sweat for their work once in
Yeah.
their life. For those people who move on to the corporate world,
Yeah.
just to have some appreciation for it. That attitude, I'm an accountant, and there's not always direct, it's a little bit more ethereal.
Yes.
It's not like I'm laying a brick or I'm, out there building or a manufacturer. I'm not building a part. But every day I do think about how what I'm doing directly benefits my wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
And that for me is all the meaning that I will ever need.
So on top of you providing for your family, you are helping make sure that all these other people can provide for their families too.
Yeah.
By doing it like that and having that kind of attitude, you can make it a great week.